want to be when you grew up?
Okay, well, I suppose a lot of people, when they answer that question, they usually say, and the kind of job that would take lots of years of study and the highest of achievements. I don't have anything like that. I was a bit of an airhead when I was at school, and I don't remember thinking I want to be this thing or I want to achieve this thing. And that's right from, I guess, when you first have a memory of childhood, I don't know, 3 or 4, up to, teenage years. I didn't really think about it. Maybe I just wanted to block it all out. I don't know. But I do have one memory of being in classroom at primary school and a supply teacher coming in, taking over from my beloved teacher, Mr. Pennell, who I used to call Mr. Pencil because I found it hilarious. And this supply teacher made us all stand in a line and said, so what do you want to be when you grow up? I think he thought he was coming in and trying to get us to think about aspirations. And I never thought about it, but I just said, I want to be an actor. I think I'd started watching TV and realizing that this world was much more fun than the world that I was living in outside of TV. And he said, well, what qualifications do you need to get that? And I think I said something like, oh, because it's easy. I can't quite remember now, I'm paraphrasing, but I think as a primary school kid, I went, oh, because it's easy, I don't need to get qualified. And I think I'll probably just throw my arms around like, acting's just about play. And I remember the supply teacher getting quite annoyed with me, saying, why do you think you don't need any qualifications? Or why wouldn't you need to get any qualifications? And thinking back now, like, that's really inappropriate from a primary school teacher to A, speak to a child like that, but B, to expect a primary school child to care about anything like that. I think it was fantastic that I just had an idea or that I was being playful, but that's the only memory really. But having said that, thinking about acting at a young age is linked to what I do now. So there you go. Even though I was an airhead, there was obviously a seed sown.
Leeds. What is happening? Welcome to episode 21 of Working Hours, a show about a place called Leeds, a time called now, and an activity called work. My name is Simon, and you're listening to my guest Carrieanne Vivianette. This is another Zoom interview recorded 14th of September 2021. Carrieanne Vivianette is a school teacher, freelance theatre maker and fine artist. Carrieanne is currently focused on the management and development of her Leeds-based theatre company, CVIVArts Theatre. The company is working on an Arts Council England funded project titled What Are You Hungry For? This was a research and development project with a final production, which will be showing in October at 3 different Leeds venues. Starting to show in October. You can hear more about the shows in the rest of the show. Creating and delivering her own solo performance work since 2005, Carrieanne has also worked collaboratively. I'll say that again. Creating and delivering her own solo performance work since 2005, Carrieanne has also worked collaboratively with other performance artists and established theatre collectives. Now she is bringing all her prior experience into her current adventure as a producer and director of her own company. She's been on maternity leave from teaching, so being a new mum and working on her theatre project has become her daily work, alongside oil painting, tea drinking, exercising and chocolate eating. If you're a learner and you're listening to this and you think you might be able to answer questions that you already know all the answers to, then please get in touch with me to arrange a time for us to record you for this show. Email me at workinghourspod@western-studios.com with a short bio and some suggestions of your availability. Also drop me a line if you have any queries or feedback, compliments or complaints. If you can be generous and wonderful enough to leave me a review, then please do so. I still haven't had any feedback, so it would be really great to see any. If you can leave a really good review for me, please do. That would be really good.
So what is it you're doing now then?
Wowzers. So for paid work, when people, this is the thing when people ask the question, what do you do? And I always feel like you have to answer in terms of your career. So, I'm a receptionist, or I'm a doctor, or, I do full-time cleaning or whatever, the thing that brings the money in. But now I'm going to start answering like in terms of identity. So that's how I'm going to answer the question. So even though I do full-time, well, I did before maternity leave, do full-time teaching in a secondary school, I'm not, even though I just have, I'm not going to answer with that answer. I'm going to answer with the identity one, which is, okay, I'm a theatre maker and I paint. I'm a fine artist. But, if you really want to know what brings the money in, then, okay, let's do the non-identity one, which is I teach in a secondary school.
So how did you get into teaching? How long have you been doing that?
Oh, I went into teaching because it was a natural part of the journey, which was all connected to performance. So I went back to study as a mature student, having chosen alcohol and cigarettes the first time round. So I went
I've
back.
done that course. It's really good.
Have you done that course? They call it lessons in
Yeah.
life. You know, life experiences. Getting out there, meeting the real people.
Yeah.
So I went back to the mature student. Sorry, I will get to your question in a minute. I have to kind of like go through a journey to get there. I do apologize.
No, I do that.
I went back and did kind of like I suppose a GCSE equivalent of a drama when I was sort of older. And I remember actually we're being put into groups at the beginning of September at Leeds City College. Which course are you doing? If you're doing this course, go to that corner. If you're doing the A-level course, go to this corner. And I sort of went over to the A-level corner thinking, I'm older, I'll be doing this one. Still airheaded, not knowing what the hell I'd signed up for. And Richard Lee, the teacher at Leeds City College, went, no, Carrie, you're over this one, which is like a GCSE one. I was like, how embarrassing. All the sort of 16-year-olds. Hi, I'm Carrieanne, I'm 20-something. Anyway, so I started there, and then I just went from one qualification to the other. So I did that, and then a mature access, then BA, then MA, and then PGCE. And that's when I got into teaching, and the PGCE was the teaching drama. So I'd done kind of studies in drama and thought, oh, I want to teach this. I can do my own solo work and perform, but that doesn't bring the money in. So I need to do something else that brings the money in related to drama. Hey, I'll be a drama teacher. Which is not what I do actually now. It's an English teacher. It's supply English. But that's how I got into teaching. I did my PGCE in drama, and then I wound up being a supply English teacher because there's no drama jobs. So there you go.
I think that, I think a lot of people, I did theatre studies at A-level myself.
Ah.
And, I worked at the Playhouse, both in the box office and in the backstage, stage management stuff. So yeah, and I obviously know other people who wanted to take a theatre path and so on. So yeah, I think it's quite common to kind of go into teaching, because you can still do the productions and still work on projects and be creative, and you're getting regular paycheck. So it's very understandable. So do you now feel that you're in a better financial position to move to this, or have you reached the point where you're just like, I need to do this. I need to, in terms of starting your own theatre company and putting on productions yourself?
Well, the starting my own theatre company and putting on productions, it isn't really linked to finance. The only way it's sort of, I don't know if I'm answering my question properly, so please stop me and reroute me if I'm going down the wrong pathway. So it's only linked to finance in respect of, we got Arts Council funding to do this particular project, and this particular project with the theatre company, which is the second one with my company, we wouldn't have been able to do without the Arts Council funding. And actually that does, what I get paid for the arts from that portion, my portion from the funding, and does help absolutely a lot, but obviously it's not enough to live full time. I mean, it would be absolutely incredible to be able to, and I often say it to my partner, like, because he's a musician and he records and he has albums out all the time, but he still has to be a teacher. He still has to be a music teacher. And when he's writing a review, and when I'm kind of like doing something for theatre, often, we have a coffee break and I go up and I went, oh, wouldn't life be amazing if, this is what we could do all day, without thinking, oh, I've got to go into secondary. I'm making it sound awful, at secondary school teaching. I'm sorry. That's another story, but it would be amazing to, I mean, I don't know. It would be amazing. I think I'd prefer it if I could do workshops and use teaching skills in facilitating workshops and teaching theatre methodology and theory and practice, and do solely theatre work and live off that. That would be absolutely amazing. There is some great things about going to new schools and working with kids. If you get a school with a good behaviour management structure, that's another story. I don't know if I answered your question. I'm sorry, Simon.
Don't worry about it, because it's generally a chat, so we'll kind of go all over the place anyway. So I want to kind of focus on two things from that. So one of my questions that I want to put in regularly now, which would normally come later on towards the end, but I'll ask you this now because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about. So I want to start asking people about a universal basic income. If you had a UBI in place, how would you be managing your time? What would you do? Would you do any of the teaching, or would you focus full time on theatre productions, or would you do something else entirely?
Oh, so you mean if I had an income which was just coming
You
to
had
me
a guaranteed
anyway?
income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I touched on this before, but I think I probably wouldn't be going into schools anymore and working with just so, and like I say, there is some fantastic things. There's some fantastic things. It depends on the school structure and the people that you're working with, of course, but there are some great things and can be some great things about working in secondary schools. However, I think the reason why I wouldn't want to actually, in fact, even teach drama in schools anymore is because I really have got to a stage where I want to work with people that want to do it. And there are a collection of students in schools and teachers who have some sort of light in their heart about drama, and they understand it in a school setting, and the kids are really into it. But majoritively, there's quite a few teachers that resent the arts being there, and there's quite a few students that just don't feel comfortable doing that kind of thing, and that's fine. So that's a very different story from doing a workshop with adults, which I've done, who really, really want to be there. And I suppose that means that I wouldn't be challenging myself anymore, because of course there is a journey of progression and a challenge for yourself if you are trying to show people why arts are relevant and why they're really good for individual progression and for solidarity and for mutual respect. They're so important. And it's great when you can do the job of showing somebody who was skeptical why these ways of relating are really good for the soul and really good for the mind. I mean, that's fantastic. But I think I'm only 40 years old, but I've already got to the age where I just think I just want to work with people who are on the same level as me. That's terrible, isn't it? So if I hadn't, sorry, go on.
No, I don't think it's terrible. No, go on.
Having said that, do you know what? I often do this. I say something and then I disagree with myself straight away. So having said that, I've just got these images of sort of going into places of people who are really interested, intriguing people that I would learn from and like to learn from, and then them saying, and maybe you know something that I don't know, and then going, oh right, okay, come on, let me show you this, and then introducing something new to them and them introducing something new to me. So that, it would be horrible to get rid of that. So I think I'd love to do workshops with different ages. Working with children is different from working with people who are sort of post 60. Having said that, I'm now disagreeing with myself. There is a lot of related ideas. You're going to regret talking to me. Make a decision, Carrieanne. Different age ranges. I'd love to do workshops with different age ranges, because control. This is the thing, because you would have the control over what the workshops were, and I think I've got to an age where I want control about what excites me and what I want to learn about, and then pass it on to somebody who hasn't had chance to learn it yet, or hasn't had chance to decide how to put it in practice. But I have, so then I can teach them and then do it with them. I want control over what workshops and what ideas are put in place in the community, and you don't often have that control in a school setting. So I think if money was coming in, workshops, time for painting, that would never go away. If I didn't paint, I don't know what I'd do, and growing my own company, and then also observing other people, which is really important, which I haven't had time to do, and which I'm trying to put in place. I'm going to be getting in touch with some Leeds directors and going, can I come and just observe what you're doing and nick all your ideas? so that's pretty much what my life would look like, and trying not to pull away from work and watch scum television, which I've been doing recently. So
I mean, it's a lot to fit in. So you mentioned the painting there. Is the painting something that you would definitely consider not work then? Is that always something that's relaxing? I mean, because you sell some of your paintings as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. So I have an Etsy shop, and I sell on there, and I do commissions. So I'm doing 2 commissions at the moment. When I'm painting, it definitely doesn't feel like work. So when I'm in the act of doing, which is often the way that it doesn't feel like work, because it's stimulating and you're responding, it's decision making all the time, and you're making the decisions that you want to make, which is often the way art is. So it's therapeutic and not work. When I'm trying to put my art out there to make sales, or when I'm got a deadline for a commission, or when I'm getting the postage wrong and I'm paying more than I'm getting back from a customer on it, say, or I'm feeling bad about charging a certain amount, which I struggle with for my artwork, that's the work side of it. Yeah, that's the work side of it. But the act itself is not work.
But I think that's an interesting thing in itself, that you're doing something that's your leisure time, but then potentially can create income as well. But then you want to work in an area as well, in terms of theatre and production and so on, that is also your interest and your passion. What are your thoughts on kind of monetizing your own passions?
Horrendous.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that a good thing, or is that like?
I'll have a sip of tea and then I'll come in with a few thoughts on that. Oh God. I've probably, I mean, I don't like saying this, so I work with fantastic people, and this is not a reflection on them, but I find I'm not enjoying theatre as much now money's involved. Having said that, it's fun. I can't be appreciative enough of getting the opportunity from the Arts Council, and there has been so many learnings. It's unbelievable learnings that have been hard to take, because I'm quite self-deprecating. So it's like, why didn't I do that the first time round? Look at all these things I'm doing wrong. I mean, it's fantastic and I need that, but it's difficult. So with that big, a lot of that money that's allowed us to do a bigger project, it's that there's more self-criticism, and there's more. It's less safe. So now money's involved, it's bigger and it's less safe. But ultimately, it's better for me as in terms of not being an emerging director and producer. But also, if you have money, if money's involved, you have to meet expectations of others. Let me say this correctly. There are certain expectations that you have to meet. When money's not involved, it's your self-created expectations. It's just expectations, your own expectations, and you're only responsible for yourself. Sorry, that's what I mean. Or it feels like that. So when I was doing solo performance, and I did actually get paid on quite a few occasions for that, but mostly I was just turning up, rocking up at a platform, not getting paid for it, and then just sort of blurting out this performance, 50-minute performance that I'd created a few weeks before, and that was cathartic. So it was kind of like, in my back room or in the shed or whatever, I'd listened to my favorite music and danced away, could build this text with the movement, felt like it meant something to me, or I was searching for something and I enjoyed that search, blurted it out in front of an audience, and I felt like I'd got something off my chest. When money's involved, perhaps I feel like you've got to be given a certain thing to an audience. Before it was, you have your deserving audience. Some people are going to find it unusual. Some people are going to find it interesting, what you do. Some people are going to say, now I know how my mum felt when I first played punk music, which was the best comment I've ever had. And some people are going to go, what was that? Like, in a really like, what the hell was that? Which is fine, but if you're asking people to pay for it, there is a bit of a, okay, it's hard to keep your integrity. Yeah, I think it's about integrity. Because can I just do what I want to do now? Because people are going to go, well, what am I getting from that? And yeah, there's a certain something that you have, that you're accountable. That's the word. I'll say that a lot. That's the word, as I'm sifting through my mind. I think you come to the right conclusion with that there. Like, through it all, it is about accountability, and the types of accountability and who you're accountable to. So let's talk a little bit about setting up the company then. So what came first? So let's talk about your new theatre piece that you're working on at the moment. So did you get funding for the company, or did you get funding for the piece? And did the company have to be formed to get the funding, or did you get funding and then have to form a company? How did it all come about? What happened? All these questions that you're asking is kind of like, what
basically take us through the story.
Oh no, I'm not criticizing the questions. It's just reminding me of what I was like when I was first thinking about it. What am I asking for? What do this? What do that?
Yeah.
So the money is for the project, which then covers payment for the company and payment for the research period and payment for the final production. So I suppose it can be categorized in those ways. And I got funding because I got help to do it. I used to work with a performer who's a fantastic performer. He won't mind me mentioning his name, Phil Sanger, and he helped me with the form, I had the concept and he helped me with, so thank you, Phil. So he helped me understand what to ask the Arts Council for. So it was research and development project, which I was like, okay, I've heard of this term, research and development, but I don't know. I mean, listening to that term, I could probably go, okay, so research means that you are studying and exploring something, and that's the job of the company, whether it's communal living on the breadline, or whether it's, dementia in Alice 9, or whatever. You are researching something and then you're showing your findings. And in terms of theatre, if I had to give the definition of what the research and development project was, I still probably wouldn't be able to articulate it properly, but we had these themes that I was interested in exploring, and now I understand that having 3 themes wasn't a good idea and we should have had 1. That we sort of said, okay, we want to get paid to research human resilience, human desire, and societal rejection, and this is all in the bubble of COVID, where as a theatre company we're going to respond to what's happening to the community in the COVID times and the pandemic. So we promised the Arts Council, as part of this R&D project, a number of wraparound activities, which was to learn how to take our theatre company online, because that's obviously what a lot of people had to do, with theatre and the arts in COVID. We had to look at what happens to desire, what people desire and whether they get it. We had to look at resilience and helping people to become resilient and how people feel about that. So we said, right, we're going to do some live chats with specialists on Instagram. We're going to do some workshops, which are going to be online. I'll deliver one. My assistant director will deliver one. I'm going to do workshops with my actors online. But we're also going to do workshops outside in different areas. We're going to build new partners with venues in Leeds. So we're with Left Bank, Slunglow, Holbeck and Seven Arts Centre. So we promised all these different things, and all these different things develop the company. So we're researching subject matters, we're researching digital theatre, and we're researching new theatre techniques through the workshops. But this is all about us developing as a company. And if we're getting this money, we need to show that actually we're developing our early career states and it's benefiting us as individuals. This is what we're going to use the money for. But we also have to prove that we're giving something back to the community. So we took ideas from the community, but we get free workshops, we get free live chats, and we've got pay as you feel performances. So you can actually come to see the final production, without paying for it if you haven't got the money. And also we had some devised bits that people could watch throughout the rehearsal process as well for free. The money was to cover lots of different things. So it's been a really long project. The final production is the results of that research and development. So the final production is the results of getting survey responses from the community. So we took some responses and I did a physical theatre workshop about embodying some of those ideas about what you desire and how does that manifest in the body. So we've got some ideas from that going into the production. I commissioned somebody to do some new writing around kind of like societal rejection and desire. That's going into the production. We devised our own, the cast devised some of their own ideas based on their feelings about the subject matters. That's going into production. So the production is kind of like the results of the research and development, which is very stressful because it's so much harder than having a script and going, what's the best way and most interesting way of presenting the script? Yeah, if anything, I shouldn't have done that. Come and see it. It's going to be great.
Like you say, it's so much harder than working off just a script. I mean, you have got to do everything. But I mean, this is going to be, and it's a fabulous experience to start off with. I mean, it must be incredibly difficult, but once you've done this and got through it, you'll have learned so much from the process of doing it. Like, you must already have been like, you must have so many different ideas of stuff that you've done wrong, stuff that you've done right. Like, you know, if I did it again, I wouldn't do this, I would do this. So yeah, are you, because so you've got 3 performances at each of the venues. You haven't given the title yet. You'll have to give the title.
Oh, the title is just the project title, which is What Are You Hungry For?
Right. So, and there's going to be 3 performances. I'll put the dates in the show notes, but if you know them off the top of your head.
Yes, I do. So our first performance is at October the 31st at Slunglow, the Holbeck, 8 o'clock. Our next one is 13th of November at CVIVArts Theatre, 8 o'clock. And then the third one is at Left Bank Leeds, 30th of October, 8 o'clock. And they're all an hour long.
Yeah. How much tickets? Do you know?
Well, it's pay as you feel at Slunglow.
Oh, it's all pay as you feel.
Well, it's not all pay as you feel, because
right.
I've worked with how there was a discussion with each venue, again, learning about how venues work, with what would they normally charge, or what do they feel for the show, and yeah, how do they normally do things? What's their policy? And Slunglow always do pay as you feel performances. So that was what they wanted. That's what they suggested. So yeah, totally happy with that. Left Bank again have their own ideas. So it's £5 ticket, and then pay more if you want to. And CVIVArts Theatre, it's a standard sort of theatre price, which is £10. This is the thing as well to say as well, that each venue has different advantages, and I don't want to say disadvantage. I don't feel like any of the venues have any disadvantages.
No, I think they're all great venues.
Yeah, no, they're amazing, but they have slightly different contextual factors. So, for example, with CVIVArts Theatre, when you go in there, it is like pitch black, and they've got like it's what you might think of if you think of, I'm sure you know this, sorry, I'm speaking to you like you don't know this, like you've never been out of the house, but it is lighting like as if you're going to a theatre, whereas Left Bank, you are in an absolutely incredible building, which brings something else to the piece. You know, the roaming aspect, the acoustic aspect, the kind of stone wall pillars, but they have restricted lighting in relation to CVIVArts Theatre. So they all bring something different, which will be interesting. Say, no, we did it like this at Holbeck. We don't have that here at Left Bank. Right, we've got 2 hours to work out how we're going to get on and off.
So are you going to have much of a, I mean, is it going to be a one-woman show? Is it just you? Or are you?
Oh, no, it's a cast of 4.
Right.
So yeah, Carol Bell, Henry Petch, and Richard Koslowski, and I am performing in it as well. But I've got a smaller role. I just can't stay away. It's like, I think producing and directing would be enough. I've got to crop up in the background. Ridiculous.
Well, and running your own company now as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know what's wrong with me, because they're fantastic. I mean, if anything, I'm going to bring it down. It's like, just leave it alone, Carrie. So yeah, they're great. So with me cropping up there, it's a cast of 4, but it's them really. You know, it's them, and they're multi-rolling because it's presentations of the themes, different presentations. So we have 3 very different scenes. So they're multi-rolling throughout the performance.
Excellent. I guess you have to produce a final report or a final document as part of your funding conditions.
Yeah.
So what's that going to be like? Does it have to be quite a weighted tome, or do you have to just be like, this is what we did, this is what we spent it on?
Yeah, well,
or are you getting someone else to do it?
Funnily enough, obviously you have a schedule that you have to stick to when you get the funding, and then obviously one of the last things is the evaluation. And when I first looked at the offer letter and what we had to do, I was like, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to have anything to write on that evaluation. I better make notes as I go along. Well, I'll tell you what, there ain't going to be enough time in the day. And there is a lot, and most of it is about my learning and what I've found. Like you said, there's probably a lot of things that you feel like you've done right. There's a lot of things that you've done wrong. With me, it's more likely things that I've done wrong. But having said that, I'm self-deprecating, and I suppose somebody say, you didn't do that wrong, and I go, no, I did. But I feel like there's definitely a lot of learning, but a lot of very, very incredibly valuable experience for me, things that I need to have as an early career producing director. So I suppose the evaluation, I need to find out if there's an actual template that you fill in, or whether I can just do what I'm doing now and like, you know, automatic response. But I would be exactly, especially like what I would do next time. what's been incredibly useful, and how I would address things next time, which is to the main thing is to make things really clear right from the beginning and stick to it, and have a more detailed contract, instead of doing a project where things have to be pieced together as it goes along, thrown away, brought in, because that's really difficult. I think next do a project where I have a bigger planning session at the beginning, and then I know exactly when rehearsals are happening, exactly how I'm going to be communicating with everybody, and exactly what each person's role is, now that I know more about that. So it's a more straightforward process. So talking about what I could do, but also I think what other people have learned from it, and what I've learned from it, and what was successful, of course, as well. Yeah, you're right. Let's not forget that. So there'll be a lot.
Well, I mean, yeah, you've got to this point, and this is off the back of lockdown, and recently having a baby, and sort of it's like there's a lot of achievement there already.
Yeah, I suppose I'm not very good at saying I'm achieving things, but I guess I am. Yeah, let's say it together. Yeah, okay, there's a lot of achievement there. That's an achievement, having a baby and doing that.
It's worrying about the next thing, isn't it? It's like, well, I've done that, so I don't need to worry about that. I guess what you're focusing on is the future and the things that can go wrong, that you need to make sure don't go wrong. Is that fair?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if I quite understand. Can you say that again, darling? Sorry.
So, you don't need to count the victories of the things that you've got done, because they've been done. You've done them already. But
right.
You're focusing on the future and things that you have to do. So your mind's focusing on things that can potentially go wrong.
Right.
And then thinking about things that have gone wrong in the past that you don't want to make sure that they go wrong again.
Oh, yes. If I am answering this incorrectly, then again, please let me know. But I think
there are no wrong answers.
So I think focusing, I think what the first thing that comes to my mind when you say that is that it's about approaches to life, and what makes it a successful journey, what makes it an unsuccessful journey. And when you said thinking about the things that can go wrong in the future, that's definitely, probably not actively, but that's definitely unconsciously what I do, and that's damaging. Rather than going, like you say, looking at back what's gone wrong, looking behind and going, this thing, not that it was wrong, but it needed to happen. It was something that maybe I would have chosen option A instead of option B if I was going to do it again. So let's choose option A next time. That's great. I'm glad that I had experience. The future's going to look bright. The future's going to look orange. Don't know why I'm thinking of orange. Is that from an advert or something?
It is from an advert.
Oh, right, okay. Okay.
Someone spent millions on making you think of it.
Yeah, and they see, there you go, it just popped up into my mind in an irrelevant way. So that would be fantastic to do that, and go, right, okay, we're in the present, and the future hasn't happened yet. So if I know now that option A is better than option B, I can now do option A. Way, woo! Everyone have some fruit juice and some chocolate. Life's brilliant. But unfortunately, our mind goes to, oh no, I might do option B. Oh, there's an option C. Oh, what if option C is worse than option B? What? There's an option D. I'm going to do option D. But what I'm trying to do, and it's nice to be reminded of this when you talked in that insightful way about the two variations. But what I'm trying to do is go, oh, do you know what? The future hasn't happened yet. So instead of lamenting on the past and going, oh, look, that thing happened, I can now go, hey, I don't know the future, because the future is not fact yet. This is fact. Yeah. And the fact is, I haven't chosen my option yet. So we're going to choose the best option, but we're going to do it together. We're a community, we're a team, and we can all choose the best option. We can skip and dance into it. We can get our instruments out and do a choral melody if we want, but we're dancing away. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Very nice. It was definitely an answer. Right, let's go on to let's get on to more sort of traditional, boring paths. Although I think you'll probably keep us entertained. So, what have we covered? So let's have a little talk about lockdown. I know we're out of it and we kind of want to forget about it and move on, but it's a persistence there in the background. So what happened with lockdown? Where were you at the time, and what was going on, and how was it?
Okay, so when lockdown first started, well, I was based at a secondary school, and I wasn't. I think I'd just moved to being on supply, so I wasn't in my. I wasn't in my. I was at one school for a while, so. No, I apologise. I remember now. I was in a permanent position, so of course schools went into that situation of doing remote learning, and I felt quite fortunate in the position that I could still continue to work and get paid for it. But the only thing was we just needed to adapt to doing it online, which was in some respects simple, just because of the format that the school used online, where you put the resources, how you interact with students, how you mark work. It was fairly simple. It must be, if I could do it, it's technology. So once I'd got my head around that, my life wasn't interrupted too much. In fact, it was slightly better. Not that anybody obviously wanted the pandemic and everything that came with it, but the work situation was slightly better, because I used to work in a school in Keighley, so now I wasn't having to get up at sort of 5:45 in the morning and then travel to Keighley. Now I was still in my dressing gown that I was just throwing off for a work meeting on Zoom, and then back on again. In my outdoor sort of summer house, which is no longer a summer house. I've let it go to pot. But anyway, so I was just working outside on the laptop. So it was okay. But then it obviously continued longer than most people probably thought it would, unless you're really good at following the news and you can see, I'm not going to get political about it. Let's not go down there. But you could probably see that it wasn't going to just come to an end based on how things were being dealt with. So I think there was definitely difficult times, because in terms of mental health and it's not being able to go out and do things in the usual way gets to you in a way that you probably don't realize it's getting to you, and then all of a sudden you're having really catty arguments and feeling really like you questioning your whole life, and you don't realize it's just the COVID situation that's making you do this. You start thinking, am I in the wrong relationship? Oh my gosh, is this happening? Why have I suddenly got anxiety? Why am I looking at the flowers in my garden and seeing how the petals are wrong and they're annoying me? It really was just the COVID, I think, that was influencing that a little bit. So, but I mean, I suppose very lucky for us and appreciative for us. Again, it comes back to that one of the reasons why we got the funding for the Arts Council is because we did something in COVID times. We promised a project that could only happen in COVID times. We wouldn't have been able to ask for that project in a non-COVID time, because we were offering digital work for people who couldn't access live theatre. So I and the company got that from the COVID stuff. That was something positive from COVID. But I feel a little bit like I'm going back into COVID. I mean, we are still in it. What am I talking about?
It's a difficult one, because we're at this process where we all kind of want to move on and be like, oh yeah, that's done with now. But we can all see and we can all sense. It's like, it's like a monster stalking around in the background behind us. And we're just like, it's fine. It'll go away. Just ignore it. It'll go away. For the best.
I suppose there are some things that it's brought to the community that is good because of this experience. And maybe that thing of being prepared or open-mindedness is one thing. That certainly solidarity and I had to for the project, but I turned to being online, being socially online in a way that I'd never been sociable online before. And a part of, there's one group in particular that I can think of, but a number of groups are doing online workshops and meeting people from, outside of Leeds through being online, and training courses online. I'm doing one at the moment, which is through the Playhouse. And so it's like, I can access all this learning, and I can meet new people, and it's all online, and suddenly I'm having conversations with people in a way that I never had before. And I think people started to open up more, definitely about, I did a few workshops on mental health, but definitely about mental health and when I say I did a few workshops, I don't mean I led a few. I did lead one, but I was part of a few, which was, it's lovely. So people started to be, there's this admirable vulnerability, which I love it. I love, it's difficult for people, but I think there's a beauty in fragility.
Let's talk about some of the stuff from your research, since we're on COVID, of like some of the things that came up, but also if you could discuss the online theatre stuff a bit more, because I think that's very interesting, and like how you're going about that, the kind of things that are coming up, the kind of things that you're seeing, but also, I mean, you're then potentially you have access to a global audience, and a mass global audience. How will that affect things, and how will that affect your thinking? And are you perhaps in a very, very lucky position in that you're potentially on the forefront of a whole new art form of online theatre? You know, you're potentially a pioneer in this area. So
that's so nice, but don't I was going to say
too heavy.
Don't dress me up with that brush, if that's all right.
Okay, well, the people that come after you will be the pioneers. So tell us a bit about theatre online, how and about this show, sort of the things that you discovered from your research from lockdown.
Okay, well, I suppose theatre online, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that there is a whole craft and skill set to doing innovative theatre online, and which hands up, my company not there yet, because it wasn't something, doing digital theatre wasn't something that we did before, and that I certainly, like I say, it was the first time I was sort of really talking on social media and stuff with this company. So in terms of technology and that kind of software, I'm calling it software, I don't even know if you use software to do digital theatre, but innovative digital theatre, but we're at the very sort of start of digital theatre in the basics, in the sense of the first one, we did a practice run, which is on our website before we actually went for Arts Council funding, because obviously when you go for Arts Council funding, it's like, these are the things that we've been doing without money, these are experiments that we've done, these are the people that I'm already working with. So we did a practice run, and that was just kind of us having a script and filming in our own homes. And this really was when it was COVID and we couldn't meet up together. So filming in our own homes, and then just timing it so that, and saying the script at the same time, and then sending in the films, and then having a filmmaker, and then structuring it so that we could have 2 people on the screen at one time, or just 1 person, or an audio over the top of 3 people, or it was called Islands, and it was just the first experimentation with digital theatre. And it really is an experimentation. And that's something that I need to say, that I always use this word experimentation, and throughout the years I'm like, I've said we're an experimental theatre company, but I shouldn't be using that word, because experimental means that you're using all these different approaches to theatre, and you're having this sort of like total theatre experience that shows it's very different and absurd, and actually no, it's wrong. Experiment things that you're trying things out, some things work and some things don't. I'm like, well, there you go, we are experimental. So we did that experiment. And in terms of, before I talk about innovative digital theatre, which I've viewed, in terms of us, the digital theatre was us promising to go wherever possible throughout our process. We are going to put it on an online platform, whether it's through Instagram, whether it's on YouTube, and then referring people to YouTube, whether it's through the website. But it's for us to learn about how to do that. So, and I have learned about online platforms a lot, even things like getting in touch with theatre festivals and seeing what the process is to have it on one of their digital platforms. So it wasn't so much about observing innovative theatre online. Like if you watch something by the RSC, you will see Tamsin Gregg on a revolving set, and then the camera here and camera there, and you're like, oh, I feel like I'm in the theatre, but it's online. Obviously, we haven't got the money for that. Or if you watch something that's, my assistant director she's fantastic. She did a workshop on it, and this is great digital theatre. She did something with her new company, Unmute Theatre company, that she just started, and it was Zoom theatre. So, but it was using all the tools that you could possibly have through Zoom theatre. So the audience decided what happened to the characters, and they decided what they observed. So she used things like Zoom polls and different camera settings for the audience. So they really were part of what they viewed. So she kind of really analysed what Zoom could offer and then made a theatre piece out of it, and that the audience felt like they were in control of what they were watching. A bit like those books where you go, turn to page 7 if you want to be eaten by the dragon, or turn to page, and that is like the first step, or the first few steps, or even the third or fourth step of doing something different for theatre and with theatre through the advantage of being online, of digital. With CVIVArts Theatre, my company, we haven't done that yet. We've just created work and tried to do it a little bit different with islands, but we've created work and then put it online, and used online for getting feedback on our work. We've done online live streams, so obviously people log on, they can see it as it's happening live for us, and that in itself is a little bit like, oh, how do you do something live through YouTube? So it seems very simple, but for somebody like me, it's all there's quite a lot of learning around everything.
Oh yeah. It's harder as well, isn't it? It's sort of, when you're not 22 years old, you don't just pick it up like that, and you have to kind of like go, oh, what? I need to do that, and then I need to do that. Hang on a second, let me just double check what
oh my God. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, secondary school students with technology. There's yeah, absolutely. I have to learn from the younger generation all the time. Yeah, but I feel like, my mind's going anyway. My partner was explaining the mortgage to me before for about 15 minutes going, is that all right then? I'm like, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to start from the beginning. What's the mortgage again? Is that, have you been listening to anything that I'm saying? I'm like, I know that, and I actually said to her, I know this is really bad, and please don't laugh at me, but can you explain it again when we've got more time? But can you draw it as well? Can you use a pen and paper to explain the remortgage of the house? Oh, blimey.
I think there is some information that's so boring your brain just refuses to admit it. It's just like, no, you're too dull. You're not coming in here. It's like things like the first past the post system, or like how Parliament works. Like, I've read up on it a couple of times, but that information won't stay in my brain because it's too dull. It's just like
that's a fantastic segue. I'm going to use that. I'm going to say, look, the only reason why I'm not latching onto this is because I'm too interested in a person. So, get dressed in a frilly dress and fan me as you do it, and I might take some of it in. But yeah. So yeah, digital. There is some. I mean, that's a good thing. It does reach a lot of people. And sorry, just to go back to one of your questions about reaching people. Yes, yeah. For our first production, A Hunger Artist, I think it's had 200 and something views on YouTube, which I know is, compared to some YouTube videos, is not a lot, but for us to sort of plonk that online and go, okay, this is something that we filmed at 7Arts. This is our version of Kafka. Well, okay, so 200 people have just watched it because we've just plonked it online and and said nice things. That's fantastic. So yeah, definitely you do reach people, and people from across the pond as well occasionally. So yeah, it is nice. So you can't turn away from it. Basically, you can't turn away from it now. You can't turn away from being online, whatever you're doing. I think that if you're trying to progress something, like especially arts, then you I don't want to call people a fool, but I think that maybe there is a little bit of foolishness if you think you're going to try and do that and not be online, because certainly the Arts Council expect it. How many people are you reaching through social media? That's something you have to write, so you can't turn away from it.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting discussion in there, in that I've had this discussion with other people before, but that you'll know this feeling of when you go to somewhere like, for example, Seven, and you sit down and you look at all their leaflets and the flyers and stuff, and you're like, oh, that looks really interesting, and that looks, and every single one of them you've missed.
Oh
like,
yes.
I would have gone to that if I'd heard about that. Oh yeah. Oh, that's gone. Oh, that's gone. And
yes,
it's like interesting stuff that's on all the time, but it's being able to reach the people, not just getting them to come, but to reach the people who will come and reaching them at the right time that they can come. So yeah, as much as it can be easier to be on social media and get that information out, it's not necessarily any easier to reach the right people sometimes, or to get them to buy. So have you found that it's much easier, like, generating audiences from social media, or is it easier going around your friends and doing flyers and stuff?
I think it's easier. Social, I think it's easier online, definitely, because it's instantly accessible. It's constantly there. So, I mean, I did used to worry at one point, going, "Oh God, I'm reposting something. People will think I'm so shameful, and how boring is that? You've got to be innovative all the time with your posts." I don't worry about that now. But what I forget is that actually, when you put something online, it's on Instagram, for example, the amount of people, because people just go zoom, 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 they just stream through. If you put the same picture up 3 times over sort of 3 or 4 weeks, they're probably not going to see the same picture 3 times, and they're not going to care. Most people aren't going to look at it. So there's no danger in reposting. There's no danger in saying, look, we've got this show on YouTube, or look, we've just done this, have a look at it. Because that's what it's there for. So it's that instant accessibility. You can post as many times as you want. You can get in touch with, for example, there's I've just seen a company online called Resilience Theatre Company. Okay, I didn't know about them before. That's relevant. I'm going to get in touch with them. What are they doing about resilience? So it is a cobweb of finding and shifting things out that is beneficial for you, but beneficial for other people as well. If you can do something, or if you can write a short review for somebody, you've got time, hey, do it. So yes, it's definitely good for reaching audiences. However, the thing I'm concerned about now is that if we're saying, this show, What Are You Hungry For? If you happen to be interested in looking at our work, it's going to be online later. Why then would they come and see the live, the live performance? So that's
to see a live performance.
Yeah, you're right. And again, I'm probably
why would you or I go to see a live performance? Because we want to see a live performance. We want to feel the actors in the stage.
Yeah, it's the real deal, isn't it? Really. Yeah. But it's this thing. Somebody I had on one of my resilience chats, Sam Dunstan, who's a fantastic theatre maker, and he's done workshops about PR and all the detailed little things that you need to look at to make sure you're getting a good, appropriate audience for each contextual, each show. Each show is very different. What are the benefits of seeing this show in this venue, in this area? What are the benefits of seeing a show in another area? Who exactly is likely to come, and what is the likely pay? And he's really good at analysing that sort of stuff and finding the enjoyment and finding the appropriate audience for different spaces and different places. And I suppose that's what I need to start looking at, the positivity around these different opportunities. There is something very positive about having it online, but there is something very positive about having it at Left Bank. So it's kind of like, if you were thinking about seeing our show, hey, this one-off show at Left Bank, we'll bring this to it. This is how we'll be dealing with it differently. Why not see 2 shows and compare how they translate differently, because they're in different
venues? See all three in different
yeah, come on, everybody.
How they're different. Well, one of them's pay as you feel, like, you seeing all of those 3 venues, they're all in Leeds, so it's not like a tour where you'd have to go, you have to go to Huddersfield to see the next one, or whatever. Everything's in Leeds. They're all within. You could see all 3 shows for the price of you bog standard theatre ticket.
Yeah.
And you'd get them all in different venues, and you get to see it in different settings, different styles, and see how that was different. So yeah. And I was going to talk about as well the tour. I mean, it must be nice to have, like, not to have to go to Manchester and do you get in there and then do the next venue, just like having everything so close.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was thinking that after the Leeds shows that would be the natural progression, because got a little bit of a relationship with a venue in London, and we were going to take our first production outside of Leeds, but then COVID happened. So I thought, well, that's what we'll do with What Are You Hungry For? But now I'm thinking it's not that kind of show, actually. So let's keep it a Leeds thing. And yeah, it's all very nice. It's nice to not have to travel, because as you say, absolutely, if you travel outside of the city, I mean, it's great to take Leeds shows outside of Leeds to go, this is what's happening in Leeds. It sounds like I'm like, whoa, Leeds is the best, which I'm not really, but it's like, hey, we're from Leeds and you're from Manchester.
Yeah.
Let's make relationships. It is good for that, but also there is the travel, and then there is the cost as well. There's the cost of the travel, which, you know, I don't know, you've got 3 or 4 cars going down there, so what is that in petrol? It sounds like a petty point, but these are all the things that you need to consider. And then if you haven't got a specifically strong partnership with a venue outside of Leeds, are you then hiring the venue rather than them doing a deal with you, which again calls into question the budget and whether you can afford it. So yeah, it is nice to do it in Leeds. And I did just say that we weren't going to look to take it out of Leeds, but actually I'm questioning that already. And I think I did put on the Arts Council form that that's what we'd do, so that's what we'll do.
yeah, if it's fund independent, then you will be doing it.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it could potentially be quite nice though, to have something for all those venues, you know, like something that you could put on as a mini tour around Leeds, and then if it was a show that had a bit of a rep, you know, you could run it again at another time, and it would, by doing the same thing, it's kind of like being consistent on social media, of like, people get to know that this is happening, and when it happens, and it becomes like, oh well, I will go see that because I know that it's happening and that I'm not going to miss it, and they can prepare for it, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I think the whole, one of the main things about this project is that it is experimental, and it is all kind of us working for feedback and us progressing as individuals in the theatre role that we've assumed. So following feedback from this production, you know, maybe with some tinkering, we then could take it to the Camden Fringe Fest, and the Hope Theatre said that they'd have us. So, you know, maybe put it on at the Hope Theatre, and then, because it would be great to take it to a festival and then go and watch other groups, and then sort of go, how long is your what, because this is the thing, it can be very isolating, but it's great speaking to other people. So it's like, oh, you've been you know, working to run a company for 2 years, or you've been doing it for 4 years, what challenges have you found? And oh, you know, oh, there's this great venue that offers this, and then they say, oh yeah, did you know that you can get vouchers free if you perform at this venue, or whatever, you know, I'm making it up now. But it's about being part of a community, which would a theatre community, which is great in Leeds, but to be honest, I don't know. I think I could probably be more involved with the theatre community in Leeds than what I am. So that's maybe something else on my list.
It goes back to what you said earlier about being online and the essentialness of being online. Like, I've noticed, so now that I'm, you know, a more online person in terms of working and so on, I've no idea what's going on, you know, I don't know what's happening in town. I don't know what the footfall's like. I don't know what's happening in offices and what people are talking about, you know, because I'm not temping anymore. So I've got a completely different, you know, imagination of the world and like how I see it, because it's all coming from online. But as well, what you were saying in terms of like making those connections, I think loads of that's yet to be done. Like, I think we're only just seeing, like, there's going to be so much shake-up from COVID and post-COVID of like all the people that have gone online and are using things a lot more. Like, for example, I know I mentioned this to a couple of other people, like LinkedIn. I've had LinkedIn for years, like, and never used it for anything. And now I'm realizing that it's going to be potentially a really powerful, useful tool for me, and is, you know, the right thing. But I've also seen other people using it more and sort of going, oh, actually, we can really, you know, leverage benefits out of LinkedIn beyond just applying for jobs and going, you know, this person says that this person's quite a good worker in this role. Like, it's a massive audience, and there are lots of people, and everybody's looking for the stuff that they're interested in. So when you said it's sort of being more connected to the theatre people in Leeds, like, I think the same way in terms of all sorts of different interests. Like, where do I find the people? Well, it's going to be online now. But all those connections are yet to be made. But yeah, I think, you know, you saying you just found that theatre company recently, like, I can already think of other people that it'd be good to put you in touch with. Like, you know, I think that there's so much going on, but going on in isolation and in silos, and it's sort of people joining up and doing things together, which I think is really kind of bubbling online now. That's the sense that I get anyway. That might just be because I'm having it all reinforced from the computer screen.
No, do you know what? I agree with you, and I think that's a really nice point to make. It makes me feel quite nice, and it also reminds me that I considered a couple of times that there's a less snobbery around things, and people are building their. So, for example, the LinkedIn. I've got a friend that's always saying, "No, you need to go on LinkedIn. You need to go on LinkedIn," and I always been like, "Oh," I was like, you create a fear of the unknown, don't you? And I always think there's a certain type of person that goes on LinkedIn. But actually now I'm slowly getting used to things online, and people are more relaxed. Well, you discover actually maybe the snobbery, maybe I'm perceiving a snobbery that's not there. So maybe it is about just me accessing things and realizing that these groups online are not snobby at all. There isn't a certain etiquette that you need to be part of LinkedIn or to be part of this or that. But I think that maybe people's online confidence builds, and different online communities are becoming more relaxed and open to developing their demographic and the people involved. So people are just more open to things and more inviting, and people want to be invited into things online and understand now the benefits of doing that, and your confidence grows in it. So yeah. Do you think you're gonna develop your LinkedIn profile now then?
I kind of, I mean, it would. I mean, it's sort of a no-brainer, really. My podcast is on work. LinkedIn's the professional network sort of thing. Like, I will be discussing employment. My content's going to be around that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's obvious just to put it there. I did want to be. I thought Instagram was kind of the place to be, to get sort of, everyone seemed to be on Instagram. And I still think that's pretty much the case. So I think it's good to have presence there. I'm not going to bother with TikTok at the moment. I've done hard about YouTube. I do fancy doing some live streaming, maybe going onto Twitch, but then it's kind of Twitch. Yes, have you heard of
Twitch? Oh, Twitch. What's that?
It's a live streaming platform. It's started for gamers, so people were just playing video games online, and other people were watching them, and they would make money from people watching them play video games. Of course, we've got bigger and bigger, but people just go on there. It's kind of it's just broadcasting. It's kind of like live podcasts in a way, where people are just nattering and talking or standing there. There's a lot of young ladies in bikinis and hot tubs as well that they apparently had to create a whole special other section for.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, I do quite fancy doing the live streaming stuff at some point, because I think that would be a good way. If I'm there in a regular time slot on a regular place, then people can come and I can do this same sort of shtick. Which would be a bit easier than trying to find people all the time. Getting to the point of letting people come to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a very good thing for you.
I'd be interested to see some of the digital theatre stuff and thinking about the interactive stuff that you could do, like sort of immersive theatre through digital, or these kind of role-playing games and all sorts of different applications that you can use things for.
Yeah, I would like that. There is a show that I've been meaning to watch. I think it's finished now, unfortunately, by a young female company, Expialitrocious. They've just started, but they did an immersive theatre show that was online as part of Edinburgh Fringe, and they included the immersive element so that the audience did. It's similar to what actually I mentioned before, but they were part of it. They were part of. I've just seen pictures and read a little bit about it. It was sort of, it kind of like mixed with. It looked like a Hammer horror scene when you see the pictures, but they're all round a dinner table, but they're all drinking and eating different things, and they're all dressed in white. And I think what happens is that when you watch it, there's a huge glass in front of the screen, so you're made to feel like you're part of the dinner table, and you decide why they're there, why they're interacting with each other, and what their conclusions are going to be in terms of how they relate to each other. Now, I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know, and I think I've missed my chance now, and I'm absolutely kicking myself because I want to know how have they managed to include the audience on something that it's not live every time somebody watches it. So it's not like, oh, well, this show's just for you. We're interacting just to you. They've filmed it. It's on there. It's there for many different people to watch. But every time an individual watches it, it's different for that individual. How do you do that? Like, really, how do you do that? I know where I'm going to send her a message going, can you just explain this to me, please? And she'll say, well, you need to watch it, Carrieanne. But I think that they send messages, or I don't know, but I need to find out, because it's that kind of clever thinking that how did they navigate that?
I think my immediate instinct is it's got to be something kind of like a Darren Brown-esque kind of cold reading of like, this is what most people will say if you put them in this situation and give them this feed line. This is what most people will think. Surely you'd have to do something like that. You'd have to know the most common responses and kind of manipulate people a bit.
So there must be like 3 contingency plans. And it's like there are options. If you choose this option, then this will be played out or whatever. So maybe it is similar to what I mentioned before, that you choose a particular playing out of the situation.
You've got to,
because there's no way that somebody can fix it, and then somebody in Doncaster can have a completely elaborate idea about how it turns out, and then they'll just know that. Of course not. So I think it is about different contingency endings and you choosing that particular ending.
But we'll have to see it to find out.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you would do this for your productions, but overall, generally theatres, they're building, quite a lot of flats. They're building things that will go up, that will be expensive, out of material that would then sort of either go to landfill or get burnt. Sometimes it'll get stored, but you're producing a lot of things that are essentially disposed of.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not quite fast fashion, but it's along those lines. Do you have any space, or does your project even include things along ecological lines? Like how much of your business thinking is coloured by ecological thinking and so on, or do you not have the ability to be able to afford that?
Well, funnily enough, I think it helps. The thing that came to mind is having had experiences in amateur theatre alongside other kind of working with other companies, is that you learn to be quite resourceful. So you learn to look at various people or various places to be able to get the things that you need to do the job as well as you can. And you mentioned flats. Funnily enough, that was one of the last conversations that I had with my stage manager about that, because we're working in venues that are very different. And Slung Low, for example, they just have a red curtain, and it wouldn't be, and they don't have anything at the sides. They just have a very open space. We need a space for the actors to exit and enter into, but it's not there. And I'm not having them go in behind a red curtain like Tommy Cooper. That would be horrendous. So we need these black flats. So we were actually thinking about the cost of that and where we can get them from. Maybe there's an upcycle for theatre. And actually the stage manager mentioned, the photographer that did the photography for Hungry Eyes, would he rent out one of his, black screens for our production for a certain price? It would be more affordable. So I think you get used to, this is why it pays to know people as well, because the more people that you know, the more answers you have in terms of ways that you can make money or ways that you can share things. Like I need to get on Creative Time Bank, because this is exactly what they do.
I've just got in touch with them. Yeah, I haven't done anything yet, but yes, I had a very nice meeting with the lady there, and yes, I would highly recommend them. They seem very good.
Fantastic. Well, do you know what? This is exactly what I need to go. Right, go on, Carrieanne, get onto it, because I'm part of the Facebook group and I just haven't got around to it yet, but I would definitely will. So yeah, this again, this comes back to work, that there's another work element of like the amount of time you spend on looking for small things to save money. And this is part of the Arts Council form as well. Where are you bringing the money in? Where are you saving the money? If we give you this much, how much percentage of it are you going to find, whether that's in-kind performance space, or whether that's because you can build and make the resources, props yourself, or whether you can sell fine art work, which is what I do, to make some of the percentage of the money that the project's going to cost. So you do have to, I mean, I didn't really give myself credit for this before, but now you're mentioning it, you do have to think in that way about money, definitely.
Okay, so I have asked about the current project and the final production. We touched on your artwork. I mean, do you want to say any more about the selling side of the fine artwork?
I suppose, I mean, in terms of me as a fine art practitioner, I need to look at, there's, as you know, as being an established artist and trying to, we've already touched upon the difficulty of money coming into these passions, because most people are so used to doing it as a hobby. People think you should just be doing it as a hobby. You shouldn't be paid for this, which is of course ridiculous. So when you try and respectably get money for the things that you do, you come into a lot of problems. But I think there's a lot of research that has to go into it to try and get a little bit of money back for the time that you're spending and the materials that you're paying out for. And I think that what I need to probably do is research what people really want and start to do that and offer that more. There's something that sells well on my shop, which is Angela Lansbury from Murder, She Wrote. Jessica Fletcher, sorry, from Murder, She Wrote. Yeah. That's the thing that sells. So I think my lesson, I need to learn these lessons, that I need to do a series of Jessica Fletcher pictures. Like, just get on with it, Carrieanne. Stop trying to sell oil paintings of John Coltrane. No one's gonna buy them. Even if you get in touch with all the jazz clubs, you know, they may or may not respond, but people will always want pictures of Jessica Fletcher. So I think I need to just give people at a reasonable price, which I think is reasonable, give people what they want, but also to move into, I'd love to do more volunteer work. Maybe I can find time to do that now I've got a baby. I just keep her strapped in the sling and just go to the toilets every now and then to breastfeed. But yeah, I want to give more back to the community in terms of art, but I don't feel like I'm there yet with the art, the fine art, because I don't know. Like, I see people doing things with fine art, like you know, decoupage and making lovely sort of oil stained, different coloured pictures, and you go, oh, how have you, is that acrylics? And then they tell you that it's all these weird and wonderful materials from the forest and that they've used this and used that. I'm like, what, that's so creative. How you come by those materials, and how have you done that process, and how did you even learn about it? So I don't really know about different, you know, the innovative aspect of fine art, which I'd like to, and I'd like to give something back, but at the moment I'm just stuck into painting in my kitchen now that the summer house has come to ruins. But I'd like to give back. I like to give back, and I like to give people what they want. So in the money side of thing, that's the research, but that's the boring part. It's the boring part. But you need to do the boring part. This is it, isn't it? You need to do the boring part.
What would, yeah, well, that's the working bit, isn't it?
It is the working bit, exactly what we were saying before. If you believe that's the working bit, some people love looking at budgets. Like, they're like, oh, if you ever want a budget.
It is. I think it becomes work, you know, like it becomes, so this is part of what I want to do this week, kind of try and distill for myself as much as for anyone else, but what, you know, what work is, what it means. And I think a lot of it is just, you know, it's what you get up and you do every day, you know, like through repetition. And it's the things that you that need to be done to enable the fun things that you want to do to be done. You know, like when you're painting, you have to do the downside of, you have to clean all your brushes, you have to get all your kit, you have to make sure that everything's, you know, kept in decent condition and kept, you know, put your tops back on your paint, all of that kind of stuff. That's the boring, non-sexy stuff, you know. Like when we imagine doing activities with like, when you think about theatre, you think about the show, putting on the show. You don't think about, oh, we've got to get all the actors together and we've got to get licenses for music, and you don't think about that side. You know that you have to, but that's not what you're focusing on. I think for me that's the work bit.
Yeah. God, it's a shame. I was just thinking about the term labour as well. When you think about the word work and the word labour, and I think somebody explained to me once that the the politics, I've lost my words, the political group, like I'm not obviously I'm a supporter, but I am way Labour.
The big L Labour, yeah.
The word Labour apparently comes from, it was called that because it was for the workers, it was for the union, it was for the workers. But yet there are loads of fantastic things that have come from that. So then I was just thinking in my mind then that you were talking that, do we have to always associate like the hardship element or the hardship side of activity with the words work and labour? And
does it have to be toil?
Does it have to be toil? Exactly. And sometimes people don't understand, like you said, that there is a lot of work in working in theatre. And there is, oh God, there really is, whether you're doing it voluntarily, amateur theatre groups, there's loads of work involved like that. So there's so much work that, from painting a set for hours to learning new skills in dealing with people, or having to do the money side of things when you're not getting paid for it. And often people don't realise that there is that work side to the arts that's really heavy going and quite hard to manage. But like you say, is it possible can we reappropriate the word work? Can we get up and do the routine, like you say, on a morning, get things done that contribute to society, that contribute to our self-esteem and our well-being? It's called work. We have our evening meal, we sit down, we talk about what we've done and what we've achieved that day. We feel good about it, we go to bed, we get paid for it, but actually it wasn't strenuous. Can we have work that isn't strenuous? Because there's this thing that attached as well, that like you get paid more the more strenuous your work is. But then there's this strange feeling, this capitalist feeling about what's tough work and what isn't. Anyway, don't get me started on that. But it would be lovely to have the word reappropriated so it would have positive connotations.
Well, I want to go back to what you were saying about giving something back, and whether you would consider voluntarism or volunteering as work, or is it something separate? And why, you say give something back. Why are you not giving back through theatre? I mean, what you're doing is entertaining people, is educating and informing people with a pastime. You are already giving through your production, sort of thing. Does that make sense? You're giving people an experience, and if it's really good, something to remember potentially for the whole time.
That's really nice. Unfortunately, my mind is still accepting the stigmatic view about the arts, that it's a selfish act and that you do it just for your own pleasure. So I still feel like I'm not giving back to the community by what I do, though that's what I've been trying to do. So I always think I'm doing this because it's great for me and I'm developing my practice, and I can't. The arts have chosen me, I haven't chosen the arts. I can't be who I am without doing these two different disciplines. So I still feel like it's selfish and it's all for me. Though if I sat with somebody and I tried to be not subjective Carrieanne but objective, I probably could look at a piece of paper and go, oh, I did a free workshop, I didn't charge people for that, people said that they learned this, that's giving something back. And if I analysed it, I probably have, but unfortunately, I'm in that really incorrect mindset of believing that the arts doesn't give back, but it does, of course it does. So maybe I need to appreciate that more, because what you say is correct. I was just going to, you were talking about volunteering, and somebody said, and I used to do different volunteering, I haven't done it for ages, and I do need to get back into it. And somebody said to me once, well, if you're going to volunteer, you need to make sure that you're getting something back, because of course you're not getting paid. So what are you getting back from doing that? Because I used to do full-time cleaning years ago before I went back to education, or while I was educating, and I thought, I never thought about that. I just did it because I wanted to, give something back or whatever. And then I started to think, what am I getting from this? So, well, I'm learning a new skill set which will contribute to my facilitation workshops, or I'm learning about these what people think about this particular thing. So then I can start to think in that way, or whatever. And maybe I don't know if it's correct to do that, to view volunteering as, well, if you're going to do it, you've got to get something out of it yourself as well. And of course you do, even if it's just a good time. well, it depends what you're volunteering on. If you're volunteering scanning newspapers, which I've done, and it's horrible, then you're probably not going to have a good time unless that floats your boat. I don't know. It'd be great when money wasn't involved, really. Wouldn't that be the utopian thing, where we just all shared our skills? And I don't know. maybe that wouldn't be. And there wasn't the idea of work. There was the idea of just doing things for others and making sure jobs got done together in the most enjoyable way possible. That's probably not realistic.
I mean, do you think some of it's just your curiosity as well? Because you're obviously quite a curious person. You're obviously someone who likes to, try and do a few things at once. You sort of like seem to be, what's going on here? Oh, what's going on here? Like, you're interested in a lot of variety. Like, do you need that within your work? I mean, theatre will give you a lot of variety, but then you're also doing the other things as well. Do you need to be doing a lot of things, do you think?
Oh gosh. I like that idea, but I sat and watched Married at First Sight Australia from beginning to end the other day and didn't move. So I did have a healthcare visitor, attached to my having had a baby. And she went, and she just stopped me. She went, I've got to say, you've got really high expectations of yourself. Most people 4 weeks after giving birth are not doing this, and I don't feel like I'm doing anything. So I genuinely, it sounds really nice, and I feel like I'm, like, I don't know, people listen to this and think that my head is growing and not fitting on the Zoom screen anymore. But I genuinely think it's probably that I want to be. I don't know how interested I am in things or how interesting I am. Maybe I'm just living out the character of somebody who is, and maybe when I'm on my own, I just do sit and eat chocolate. I do just sit and eat chocolate. No, I am interested in other stuff, but I haven't got much brain capacity to stay with it for very long. I just like to flit through life and see these things and choose what I'm going to go into. But everyone does. But yeah, getting back to volunteering, maybe there is a curiosity. Definitely. I think it probably is when you're 15 or 16 years old and you just have to go out and you're not allowed. And you're like, well, actually, I'm thinking 13, 14, because I wasn't at home when I was 15, 16. But, when you first start going out and you're grounded or you're not allowed, and it's the worst feeling in the world. You're like, something's happening and I'm missing it. It's just the same group of people drinking the same books fast, smoking the same cigarettes. But it's this horrible feeling that you're not going to see, something's going to happen and you're going to miss it. Maybe there's a little bit of that as well. I don't know.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to cover, or that you want to talk about, want to mention, or any?
The thing I'd like to say is if people are interested in the show, what we really want is to know people's views on it, and we really want feedback. So please come and if you're not in the position to be able to pay, please come to the Slung Low one at the Holbeck, because it's just worth going to the Holbeck anyway to just see the venue. The Holbeck do, as you know, absolutely incredible work with the community. And please come and watch our Pay As You Feel performance, and let us know through the website what you think of it, because we are looking to polish up the show following these 3 Leeds dates, and then maybe taking it outside of Leeds, or seeing what we can do with it next. And this is a sharing of communal thoughts. It's a sharing of our kind of experimental ideas, what works, what doesn't. So we need you to tell us that. So please come to the show.
Okay. Do you want to give us your socials as well, like the website?
Yes, absolutely. So Instagram and Facebook for the theatre work is CVIVArts. So it's at CVIVArts, CVIVArts. That's Instagram and Facebook. If you go, we've got a website which has got everything on it, like all the work that we've done, including our social media handles. And if you type CVIVArts Theatre in online, the website will pop up. And if you type my name, Carrieanne Vivianette, the website will pop up. For my fine art work, it's CVIVArts Fine Art. So it's CVIVArts with fine art on the end. That's the handle for Instagram. And it's also that for the Etsy shop as well. Have a browse if you like Tom Waits. There's a lovely Tom Waits painting on there that you might want to purchase.
Nice.
But thank you so much for inviting me onto your wonderful podcast.
Thank you to Carrieanne for being my guest on this episode, and do go and see her show. Go see all 3 at all 3 different venues. If you're listening to this show, then I assume you have some connection to Leeds, like living here or being from here. If you're that person in Leeds or from Leeds and you haven't done a record for this show yet, please send me a message now and let's record your working hours session. Just think, if you're interviewed now and then you're still alive at the end of this decade and we still have electric power, breathable air and our heads above water, then you will be able to listen back to your interview and be all nostalgic about how different everything is now. Please remember to like, share and subscribe to this show. Please consider becoming a champion for this project and this show on Patreon. It's only £1 a month for loiners, so go to patreon.com/workinghourspod to sign up and offer regular support. If you become a champion, you'll be helping me to get to the stage of publishing 2 episodes a week. At that point, as a loiner champion, you'll be getting 8 early release episodes of Working Hours each month for just £1, and you would have helped the show to get there. If you like the idea of this show, then why wouldn't you sign up and help it out? I will get to 1,000 of these, but that doesn't depend on me, it depends on you. If you can and do help me, then I will hit that goal. If you like, share and provide financial contributions, I can improve my ability to reach those 1,000 loiners. And of course, for any loiner listening to this, the biggest help is if you actually come on this podcast. It's not scary, it's not stressful, and your voice will sound so much better with intro and outro music bracketing it. You can also appear anonymously if that helps. I'm really interested to hear from anyone in Leeds or from Leeds in whatever industry, sector or role you are in. What is your experience? How do you feel about work? What do you like and not like? What do you do, Leeds? Email this podcast now, workinghourspod@western-studios.com with your short bio and suggestions of your availability. Or just send me feedback, questions, comments, queries, whatever. You can follow this show on Twitter @WorkingHours3 and on Instagram @WorkingHoursPodLeeds. Next time on Working Hours, 2 more episodes are dropping. Different Leeds time, same Leeds channel. Working Hours is presented, edited and recorded by Simon Treen for Western Studios Leeds Limited. The music was The Bees from Chopin's Etudes, which is in the public domain and was taken from museopen.org.
Let's have a little chat about boredom and leisure. So I remember, I have very vivid memories of like the 80s and 90s and very severe, prolonged bouts of boredom. And now we live in the age of shiny, digital sort of gambling machines in our hands. We're distracted all the time and, you're rarely bored. But also it seems that leisure has kind of disappeared, not just because work's come into the home, into people's bedrooms in some cases, or invaded all these new areas, and you've lost that distinction between the work and the non-work space as it was. And leisure seems to be, it's all these books of like the 100 holiday destinations you must go to, the 100 films you must watch, the 100 songs you must listen to. It's like, can't I just listen to a song or watch a film or go on holiday? No, you must do it this way, and you have to have these things. And that's like work as well. It's something else to tick off. So leisure feels a bit more like work, like consumption these days.
Interesting. Yeah.
How do you feel about that sort of division? I mean, do you feel that you still have space to get bored? Did you used to get as bored?
I think boredom is the worst thing.
It's horrible.
And funnily enough, my friend Marcel came around this morning and we were speaking about boredom. And what drives people to boredom. And him and his partner, they've just been away, and his partner likes to, my friend Marcel was saying, he has to sit in a cafe every hour or every 2 hours and just have a coffee and a cigarette, and he's okay with that. And I'm like, come on, we need to do this, we need to do that, we're on holiday. And his partner would just be happy to just sit there and watch France go by. And I'm like, I'm like that. But my friend Marcel found that really boring. But I guess his partner finds it really boring to fix what they're doing. We have to do this by this point, and we have to do that by this point, and we have to make the most of this. So I guess what I'm thinking about there is that it was interesting talking to him that people are driven to boredom in different ways. I think, just going back to, I think boredom for me, I don't, like you've just said, I said it's horrible and you agreed. I don't know if you feel the same way, but to me, boredom is like it's like emptiness. So then you open up into sort of like depression, and there's nothing there. There's nothing to do. There's no stimulation. And my auntie used to say to me, "Oh, if you're bored, it means you're a boring person. People who are bored are boring people." So I would never tell anybody that I was bored, because I was just like, "Oh yes, no, just these sweets are really exciting. Look, I've got a pink one and a green one." And I'm going, "No, it's just a fucking bun. This is boring." Whereas actually, I've got a friend who's fantastic, who's like, "Oh, look at this bun, it's amazing. Oh, look at the way the icing sort of like cascades over the little bobbly silver balls." And I just look at him with amazement. I'm like, "Oh, Si, you just." He just finds everything so interesting, and I love, he's infectious, and I love being with him. And maybe he is a more interesting person, and maybe there is something to be said for people who are driven to boredom more easily, or accept boredom more easily. I'm not suggesting you're a boring person, because we both just said that we get bored easily. That's probably not a correct theory. But
I certainly can be. As anyone can be.
Exactly. I guess the original story with going back to talking about my friend and how him and his partner find different things boring or distasteful or unwanted, that came to my mind because they were attached to leisure, because you were saying about boredom and leisure. And actually, you know, my friend Marcel finds it boring to just sit there and not go out seeking and not find things and not do different activities and different stimulating things. To him, sitting in a cafe and just relaxing is boredom, but the physical pursuits is the leisure part. But to his partner, the leisure is sitting and having a coffee and a cigarette and deciding in his own time if he's going to move or not. And the boredom is trying to do things at a certain time. So I guess whether you perceive something as leisure or boredom is really down to your personality, which again, we can talk about nature and nurture. I think it's harder. I think from my point of view, what comes to my mind now about whether it's harder to find leisure or not. I think that for me, leisure and pleasurable activity is linked to spontaneity. So I think the best day ever is when you go, like I had an experience with somebody, and this lad that I was seeing, and it didn't turn out well. But anyway, we had this one day where we went to the bus stop, and we thought of this word, and it was like, I don't know what the word was. It was something ketchup on or something, or like gobbledygook, or I don't know what the word was. But we had this theory that we was going to go and speak to the lady at the bus stop reception, you know, at the coach station in Leeds, and we're going to go in there and say, "Oh, we've got to be at this place," and we can't remember the name of it. It sounds something like, and then we said this word, and she went, "Oh, do you mean Ripley? Oh no, or do you mean Menston? Oh no, do you mean, oh, you're probably thinking of so and so." And we're like, "That's it." We couldn't remember the name. So then she gave us a location based on this made up word. And then we ended up getting a bus there and then going, "Oh, this is quite nice, actually." So not knowing where you're going to be, and just living it really spontaneously, you know, just waking up and going, "Oh, do you know what? Let's go to Sheffield Meadowhall today. I don't really like it, but there's something calling me there." You know, to me, that's leisure. It's the not knowing. Oh, they're sitting in a cafe and sitting outside, not knowing who's going to walk past and who you're going to observe, or watching somebody else in the cafe and trying to guess what they're going to say next to the person that's selling the cakes. And what I was going to say is that maybe this idea of being able to be if that is true for some other people, or a large percentage of people, with the situation now, with spontaneity kind of going away, because we do have things fixed in place, we do have restrictions, we are being sort of controlled in a different way. Maybe spontaneity is going away, so maybe leisure is going away. Or maybe, like you said before, going into a place and being out of practice about sort of freedom and comfortable feeling of responding to people, that's now going away. So you need to be comfortable to be spontaneous. I just went on such a massive rant there.